Hello everyone. In this video I will be showing you gameplay of a Nexus Night finals, the first Nexus Night of the Vendetta set. I am playing Rek'Sai and my opponent, one of my great friends Luke, is playing Draven. This is both the first event we've been playing since Vendetta released, and we are both heavily testing for Barcelona. I am playing Rek'Sai because it is pretty close to Darius, a list I played up until the metal cards rotated, and Luke is always on a purple-red deck like Pike or Draven, and he really liked the look of Draven in Vendetta post-release because of the tentacle card, so he wanted to try that. We won our first two games and we got matched in the final, so I decided to record it so I could review the gameplay and also get a little bit more information on the mistakes I made. And just show you what a Nexus like looks like from my POV. Hope you enjoy! Throughout this video I will be occasionally putting in some commentary to talk through plays, through mistakes, through decision making, what I was thinking, whether I should have done things differently when watching the video, and just overall giving a little bit of information about the deck itself. So here I decided to conquer with Pauli Poro, because if he wants to contest this, he has to invest a card anyways. And I activated Rek'Sai Legends with the hope of hitting a Carrion Dredger, which I did, because it's great. I can get my Pauli Poro back off his Star Spring, sacrifice the Carrion Dredger without really losing any units on board. I now have two things in base. I now notice that I put the wrong token down, but it doesn't really matter. And now I can double conquer the next turn, or just conquer with the token to get another Rek'Sai activation. When I was recording or playing this game, I didn't really realize how Hall of Legends works with the Rek'Sai Legend, so I thought if the Rek'Sai Legend exhausted, you can go to the Hall of Legends, first untap it, then re-tap it to use it again, but it's basically the other way around. So the Hall of Legends should be the first battlefield you conquer, because then you can stack it in such a way that you use your Rek'Sai Legend, and then before resolving that you also pay the one for the Half Legends, so it untaps after the activation, and then if you go to the other battlefield you can use it again. So you'll probably notice that I'll be using it incorrectly throughout game 1, but yeah, forgive me please. Okay, so this is an interesting turn because I reveal a Under Titan and a Void Rush of the Rek'Sai ability. And since I'm low on runes, I don't really want to use the Void Rush, but we were talking to each other and he's like, isn't this basically the best card in your deck? Shouldn't you always play it, especially if it's free? And I went with it. I'm not sure if I still agree with this play, but he is right. If I do it like a Noxus Hopeful and a different 2-drop, I get so much value from just playing it. And I do get to play a Poro for free here. I also get to play a other Poro with the 2 mana I still had left and develop my base quite nicely. Here I'm thinking about putting the Poro on the Star Spring and bouncing the token back. So again, he has to invest some resources on his 2-drop to go over it. But I decided against it because I think in base I had a Cleave in hand or a Blood Rush. So I thought, yeah, I could just go over anything that he develops. I think in hindsight this is the wrong play, because now he can get a draw for free, he can develop his base and probably keep a combat trick open. So I guess the initial thought I had of just putting the Poro on the Star Spring and making him invest a resource to trade for it and providing me with more information and basically only going down one rune would be a little bit, or one might in total would be a little bit better. Now he can develop the Kaiser for free, conquer, draw another card, so he drew 2 cards already this turn, and he can keep the 2 mana open to threaten a Spinning Axe. And if I kept the Poro on base, I guess it didn't really matter that I'm now thinking about it, because he can just develop the Kaiser, use that to go into the Star Spring and kill the Poro, and then use the Overzealous Fan to go to the Half Legends. So I guess in the end it didn't really matter, and now I have a little bit more might in base. But I think if I have 0 information, it would have been better, because if he doesn't have Kaiser, he still has to invest something else, and then it doesn't allow him to develop his base aggressively. Here I'm basically thinking how I want to clear his board, because for now my goal is to keep his board as clear as possible while keeping the card advantage. So I use the Poro that has Assault 1 to move over it, let him have the trigger, It doesn't let him draw a card because he doesn't have a unit remaining after the combat showdown. And now I can use one of my other Poros to just still go into the Star Spring, score the point, and activate my Rek'Sai ability. Here I'm thinking if I should use the Starfall on Kai'Sa, or whether I should conquer first. I conquer first, I go to, I think, 3 or 4 points. I will track it, you will see the number on screen. And here I'm deciding if I want to develop my base more, or if I want to see if I can contest the Kai'Sa. I end up deciding not to play anything, because if I play the Inferna, I have less options open, and if I play the Manufacturer, I can't do basically anything else. So here I decide to Starfall as Kai'Sa. I either want to bait his Spinning Axe, so if he uses it, I can just crash my Poro into a 6 damage marked Kai'Sa, clear both the Spinning Axe and the Kai'Sa. I will lose my Poro, but I will still have another 2-drop in base that I develop afterwards. So he's now thinking, this gives me a little bit of information, or he's just bluffing. I think I asked him after the game and he was bluffing, and he also told me like, oh, you're running so hard into a Spinning Axe, and I told him, no, even if you have a Spinning Axe, I'll just crash my Poro into the Kai'Sa anyways, so you will lose both the Kai'Sa and the Spinning Axe. He ends up letting the Kai'Sa die, and I just run my Poro into the Hall of Legends. I will score. I want to keep point tempo, because I think the most important thing for Rek'Sai is to be ahead of points, because you want to do a final swing after retreating RU units with like an Under Titan. And I develop my board here a little bit more. I choose to play the Shadow Fiend in base. I wanted to play the Carrion Dredger on the Star Spring and get the Poro back, so he's a little bit safer. I think that would have been a better play, because if it does Starfall me right now and conquers one of the battlefields, is kind of bad. And the Carrion Dredger allows me to at least keep 1 unit, and if he has to Starfall a Pouty Poro in base, it also costs him 1 more rune, which would be beneficial for me. I think I chose to play the Shadow Fiend in case he accelerates another Kai'Sa. It allows me to run over it with just the Assault from Empower. I think that was my thinking process at the time, but I'm not sure. Here, Mr. Bus Driver is taking a long time taking over his turn, but it makes sense. I'm quite ahead, and I think he has to find the best options. So he does play the Starfall on... I don't quite remember. I think he's gonna just kill everything in base, because killing the Poros is quite expensive. So this is actually a pretty good move from him, because he also, if he plays something that can ready, like a Kai'Sa, it would be very annoying, but he decides to develop his board as well by playing 2 Pouty Poros. If I do end up drawing a Starfall, it would be very difficult for me to deal with that, because it would need me to recycle all my runes. I think I go to 6 points here, so I'm in a pretty comfortable spot, either 5 or 6, I'm not sure. So I can retreat both my Poros, keep them safe in base, and just completely develop my base, and adding 2 more 2-drops. Of course, I don't want him to draw any more cards, so leaving the Poros there is not a great option. They're super easy to deal with on his end if he has like a Cleave, Spinning Axe, or anything, you know, that has extra movement, accelerate. It will just allow him to draw a card, I lose my resources, and it will put me behind and probably make me lose the game. So I just let him score here for free, and I'm gonna set up for like the big turn where I try to score my 2 final points. So here's gonna basically develop his Chosen Champion Draven, which at this point is 7 might. It's hard for me to deal with. Even if I have a Falling Star, I cannot kill it as long as it is in base. And he can, it's almost impossible for me to threaten or hold against it, because this deck is really good at attacking battlefields, but it's super bad at holding. There's basically no interaction, no reaction or action speed removal besides the one of Hidden Blade. And he decides to hide 2 cards here. So in this turn I have two options. I can either play Bryn here, force him to play his hidden cards, but then I would have to invest heavily on the units that are in my base, because if I play Bryn here I cannot basically play anything else. So I decide to go for a weird play where I play the deflect for both the Poros. Now thinking back on it, if he had a hidden blade or a spinning axe, it would have blown me out because it would be very difficult for me to overtake a spinning axe that he uses on a Poro, but luckily he doesn't have one. So he flips both of his tide turners because he doesn't want to lose control of the battlefield. Which is fair. I still have to invest spells or units to take over. So here I'm thinking, do I want to use my Blood Rush now or later? I decide to crash in with both of these so I don't have to invest anything. He can trade with one of the units, but he has a Gust on my biggest unit. So now he forces me to either use a Cleave or a Blood Rush, which I do have. I am now thinking, do I want a Blood Rush one time on the Carrion Dredger and one time on the Poro? So if he doesn't have a spinning axe, I can pretty efficiently retake both battlefields, keep as much mana open as possible, and also use my Rek'Sai Legend. But I'm kind of scared of the spinning axe, because if he does have spinning axe, then I would lose the Carrion Dredger if it is only at 3 might, and then I would have to invest heavily on either battlefields with the Poros to at least score 1 point, so I choose to do both. Of course, this is a really bad window if he does have another Gust, because then I just wasted pretty much my entire turn and got blown up by Gust, and I'm completely depleted on resources. He's thinking here, so I'm like, oh shit, what can he have? I thought about spinning axe, I thought about Gust, and I didn't think about Ride the Wind, which of course is amazing in this position. He gets to fortify his position. I lose the Carrion Dredger. He only loses the Merchant because the Carrion Dredger is not big enough to currently kill the Draven, and whatever I have left in base is also not big enough to deal with it. Of course, he's now tapped out, so let's say if I did have double Cleave or another Blood Rush, then I would be able to kill his Draven, which would have maybe won me the game. But yeah, as you can see in my hand, there's another 2-drop and the Bryn here. I decide to sacrifice my Poros here because I want to stay ahead in points. Of course, if he has another Ride the Wind, it's pretty much a blowout. I do flip a Noxus Hope for here, which is pretty nice, but still, it's going to be really difficult for me to deal with this Draven while I only have 4 runes next turn, so that means I think the best play I can have is an accelerated Rek'Sai or a Blood Rush, but either way it's not looking good, especially if he has more tricks or can fortify his position there. And since we're on Starspring, he can just play his Noxus Hopeful on the Starspring, move the Draven back, move the Draven into the other battlefield, which I absolutely cannot defend. He will go to 6 point, have a Giant Draven, and I will have 4 runes, a Noxus Hopeful, and a bird. So it's clearly not really looking good for me. I top deck a Under Titan, which is also impossible to cast. I'm just thinking, can I stop him from going to 8 points next turn, maybe flip a Hidden Blade off the top of my deck. So if I conquer the Noxus Hopeful, then I can still go, you know, hold there, get a point, kill the Draven, and then he needs an accelerated unit to stop me from winning. I'm not sure why I'm holding the Bryn here there, because I can absolutely not cast it. I think my only option here is to just crash the bird and the Noxus Hopeful into his Noxus Hopeful, pray that he doesn't have any kind of combo trick, any kind of interaction, and then I win. Or yeah, it's not looking really good. So here he is thinking, if I remember correctly, he has a Flash and a Ride the Wind in hand. And I think he chooses to Flash because he said, if I Ride the Wind here and you do have a Hidden Blade, then I would lose the game because I would lose my Noxus Hopeful and I would lose my Draven. And you're not at a winning point and you cannot kill my Draven at this battlefield. Unless you have an accelerated unit and a Hidden Blade, but I don't have enough resources to both hit the Hidden Blade and accelerated unit. So he ends up flashing just his Noxus Hopeful because I am at 6 points. So if he flashes both his Noxus Hopeful and the Draven, I just win because I can accelerate Rek'Sai, move in, win the game. So he's just going over stars. Just keep in mind, we're both pretty cooked. It's Friday evening. It's like 11:30. So we're not playing our best. And this is also both of our first times playing these decks in paper. Which is why some of the decision making is a little bit longer. So he chooses to flash just his Noxus Hopeful, which makes a lot of sense. He doesn't lose any resources. It's also an ability for him to overtake. I draw a card because I'm at 7 points. I reveal a Carrion Dredger and a Poro, and I drew off the 7 point a Noxus Hopeful. So there's no way for me to develop enough board state that I can stop his attack, because I'm pretty sure he also has a Ride the Wind in hand. So even if I completely stack the battlefield on the right side, which would be a Poro for 2 might and a Noxus Hopeful. So there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, and he has Ride the Wind and Noxus Hopeful. Yeah, we just lose the game. So let's move into game 2. In game 2, I am starting. I have a Seat of Power because it gives me additional cards. Double Conquering is super easy in Rek'Sai, and you just want to keep flooding them with card advantage. He's playing the Valmont Layer, which is annoying because Rek'Sai really wants to be able to retreat the units that he cannot kill in his turn, but it also allows him to draw a lot of cards if I run in with like a token. I develop my board with the Carrion Dredger, which I think is a really good card that came out last set. I think every yellow deck is running it. Just being able to score a point, let it die, and get a free body back that you can use to score the other battlefield is just insanely valuable. Especially if you're running Cold Week yourself, it's a pretty one-sided effect. So you get to sacrifice the Carrion Dredger, keep the token basically, and then your opponent is down 1 unit and you're gonna break even. He decides to develop his board with the Tentacles. Which again is a new card that released. It's insanely good in Draven because you have so many ways to power them up. Like a Spinning Axe makes it 4, Cleave makes it 4. If you have Switcheroo, you can also leave it on the battlefield with a hidden card and then you can blow out that way. I decide to play the Inferna in base and not develop anything else because I was thinking, oh, if I keep open the Longsword, I can force him to use a resource. And then that's why I said, oh wait, maybe I should develop another unit. And now that I'm thinking back again, I definitely should have developed another unit in base, because keeping the Longsword open here is just gonna give me or put me back another resource. And if he has any type of Cleave or Spinning Axe, my Carrion Dredger still loses even with Longsword, and he chooses to Cleave here instantly. So I don't even get to do anything. I don't have enough mana for the Void Seeker, and he draws a card basically for free. He can go to the other battlefield, draw another card, and he still has 3 mana open, so he can either choose to, or 4, that's crazy. He can choose to develop his board, or he can keep tricks open, but he chooses to reinforce the Seat of Power to stop me from drawing cards, and I think he's gonna keep 2 open, but I don't remember correctly. Alright, so he just passes turn with 2 open. He's always threatening the Spinning Axe, and that's why I hate playing against Draven as Rek'Sai. I think it's also one of the worst matchups for Rek'Sai, because they have just so many tricks, and the tactic of kind of guerrilla warfare, moving in, getting value, getting a point, and leaving your token there to, you know, let them kill it. Draven just draws too many cards with that. Every other deck, they don't get cards. It doesn't matter if they snipe away your tokens on the battlefield, but it's really annoying if they do get to draw every time. And here, I feel like I'm running into a Spinning Axe way too many times, but I do feel like if he had one, he would have used it in response to the Void Seeker that I played originally. Here I'm thinking if I want to develop the board with the Poro, or if I want to keep 2 open, because if he does have a trick, then I want to threaten something like a Spinning Axe, or I mean the Longsword, or a Cleave, making him doubt. Okay, so he does have the Spinning Axe, which makes the Tentacles 4, which is why I kept the 2 open. Now I get to play the Longsword on the Inferna, which will make her 5, make me score a point. I could get to draw a card, and he loses his Spinning Axe, so that's a pretty good turn for me. This is not really a comfortable position to be in, because my base is empty. I have pretty weak battlefields with a 1 might bird and a 3 might inferna. But I don't have enough mana left because I had to invest a lot of resources to double conquer. Worst case scenario, he can just accelerate a Kai'Sa and overtake one of the battlefields, which is annoying, but not the end of the world. He does have a Forerunner, which is even more annoying, I think. Forerunner is super hard to deal with for Rek'Sai. It has a lot of might. Even if you can kill it efficiently, the might will remain in his base, so he can reconquer it next turn. If he does run Rek'Sai, he can also accelerate these mechs. So either way, I think Forerunner is a super hard card to deal with. Here I hold 2 extra points. I, of course, retreat the Inferna. I cannot retreat the Bird, unfortunately, which makes the Valmos layer so good against my deck. And here I decide to develop my entire backline, because I'm ahead in points. And at this point, I just need to get as much power on the battlefield as possible, keep scoring without losing any units where possible, and make sure that I stay ahead. Now, the next challenge for me is, how do I deal with a Forerunner that he is definitely going to run into one of the battlefields without losing too much of my power in the process. But because basically now the game plan is, like I said, scoring points where I can without losing resources, and then having the Under Titan and a huge base for the final swing. I think, I don't remember, I'm pretty much ahead of points. Again, you will see it on the screen. And I'm thinking, okay, so how do I deal with Forerunner? Okay, he does have a Kai'Sa, so this allows him to draw 2 cards. So again, this is the power of Draven with the Valmos layer. He drew a card for turn, he drew a card for killing my bird with the Forerunner, and he's now drawing 2 cards using my battlefield and the Kai'Sa Conquer trigger, which of course is a lot of value. He's now hiding a card because he needs to establish the battlefields. He cannot really afford me scoring points for free, because if that happens, I will just run over the game in the end. So I untap, I have plenty of might in base. I have now 2 options. I can just run the Inferna into the Kai'Sa and see what happens. I top deck a Kill the Weak, which of course is pretty sweet if I can use it efficiently. I will probably have to use it after Kai'Sa's dead, because if I use it now, he will just kill his Forerunner, get 2 mechs in base, and that's pretty much good value for him. And I will lose one of my very valuable units. So I choose to Void Rush, just see what my other options are. I flip another Void Rush and another 2-drop that I can use to develop my board. I put it in my hand and I play the Void Rush for free. Again, I do this just to see what my options are. I flip 2 more 2-drops so I can develop the base a little bit more. My hand is a little bit awkward depending on what he has. I choose to... Alright, I choose to Kill the Weak here because I hit the Carrion Dredger. I don't really lose any of my valuable resources, and I force him to clear one of the battlefields. So if he kills the Forerunner, I can conquer that for free with my lowest or weakest Poro, tap Rek'Sai and see what my other options are. Like if I hit a Falling Star, that's pretty valuable. If I hit another Call the Weak, it's of course the best because I can just sack my bird token and he has to sack the Kai'Sa. He's pretty much stepped out. Oh wait, no, he has the max now, so Call the Weak wouldn't really cut it anymore. So I activate it. See, I do have Call the Weak. I might be dumb. I'm pretty dumb. I'm not a good player, so I might be playing the Call the Weak, which of course is incorrect in this position. But it would allow me to keep the might outside of his base. So would it be incorrect? I'm not sure. Leave a comment if you think, if you know what the best play is here. I don't think I'm gonna do the best play. So I do choose to not Kill the Weak in order to develop my base. I think I'm also already at 6 points at this point. So I do not really need to commit to the other battlefield. I'm pretty much setting up for my Under Titan turn. So here I am thinking, okay, I have Inferna. I have 2 of the Shadow dudes that can be might 5 on attack. I have another Inferna, and if I put a Under Titan on top of that, it will give me a lot of power. So if you calculate it, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if I play Under Titan, I will get 12 might for that turn, which of course is nothing to scoff at. So that ends up being the game plan, just setting up for a final swing where I win on the spot. I don't need to really run into any tricks here, so if he has like a switcheroo, which I was scared of, if I run a 5 might Inferna into his 4 might Kai'Sa and he switcheroos me, I lose. If he has like a tie turner and puts a mech next to it, I will have to overinvest and lose too many resources, and I'm like, okay, let's just go to 6 points and make sure that I set up for the final swing. And again, the power of Draven, he just runs his mech into my Poro that I couldn't retreat. Draw a card, see another option, probably top deck the stack deck, play the stack deck, look at the 3 new options. Another stack deck apparently, because he didn't find what he wanted. There's just so many things that the Draven deck can go through. I think the past 2 sets after the bannings, Draven has not been really in a good spot. But with how the current Vendetta meta is looking to shape up, I think it's going to be a really, really good deck. The addition of the Tentacle card to either mainboard or sideboard is really valuable. And I think one of the few decks it can struggle against are like Lux Combo or Aurora, because they just basically outvalue you in the late game. But every fair creature-based decks, I think Draven can really eat up, because they have so many tricks, the spinning X adds so many value to your smaller units, and the card draw is just insanely valuable in these games. Because of course I am seeing cards from Rek'Sai, but I don't get to draw them. So if in the position where I reveal a card that is actually valuable, but I either don't have the mana to cast it, or I am not in a position to play it efficiently, I have to bottom it and I will not see it for the rest of the game. Whereas if they win a combat or conquer a battlefield where there's an enemy unit, they get to draw a card. Again, his hand is so full, and at this point in the game he has resources, he has board state, and my hand is pretty much spent. Of course my base is looking pretty stacked. So if he doesn't really go for the hold and leave mana open to threaten a lot of tricks, I don't think he can win here. I also have the longsword that if I use it efficiently, then I can run my units in 1 by 1 and pumping them with 2 extra might, which is probably what I'm going to do after this turn. So he's pretty much aware that if he doesn't reinforce his battlefield this turn, I will just win. On board, he looks pretty solid, because all in all my units, of course, the Shadow Fiends are pretty threatening. I can make them 5. But depending on the cards in hand and the hidden card, he can probably win. But here I am thinking, okay, so what's the approach? Do I first play Under Titan? Do I first empower one of these Shadow Fiends? And I'm just calculating in my head, okay, so what's the maximum amount of might I can generate with the cards I have right now? So I decide if I play Under Titan, I get 12 might, which even if I pump the Shadow Fiends, this is the most might I can generate with just 1 card. So here I choose to use the Inferna alone, because I don't want the longsword to be stuck to anything. So Inferna here is now 7, which would allow me to clean up both the Noxus Hopeful and the mech if he doesn't do anything. And if he does something like a Ride the Wind, I get more options. I think it puts him in a very difficult position of defending this battlefield. His best option is basically just letting this trade happen. Of course, I will give him a card, which is super frustrating that I just give him cards for free. I think he forgets to draw it here. I don't think it matters, but it is very annoying. And so this is going to be the turn where I have to think a lot, because I don't want to get blown out by any units, but I also don't want to overcommit to a battlefield and then lose because I cannot hold. So here I'm basically thinking, okay, so what happens if I equip a longsword here and he just accepts it, which means that the longsword is now no longer available to me, because I cannot re-equip it once it's stuck on a unit. And if he lets the unit where I put it on live, it's going to be very frustrating. So here I'm thinking, okay, I have a bird, I can just crash it into the mech, and if it doesn't have anything, then I, get to conquer it for free. But then I have to use another unit into the battlefield to even get the point, and then I only have 3 units left to contest the one with Kai'Sa. I end up doing this, and then we were discussing, like, is this, I'm just thinking out loud at this point, I'm like, is this the best option? And he's like, yeah, why are you not going into it with something very, yeah, but I don't want to lose my longsword in that battlefield. He's like, yeah, but if I have something here, you have to reinvest resources. And it's, you know, not going to be really worth it. And I do agree. So I'm now looking, okay, what's the best unit? I want to walk into the battlefield with the least amount of risk and also spending the least amount of resources, even if he does have a trick. And we're kind of just discussing here. Again, we're playing in the finals of a Nexus night. I think there's like 1 or 2 extra packs on the line. We both don't care. We're both testing for Barcelona. So ideally, we just play in the most optimal way. Of course, we haven't been doing that so far. But I run my Shadow Fiend in, which is 4. It's 1 bigger. I don't have any tricks. Well, he doesn't know I could always have Cleave. So I think he's also playing around Cleave. He lets it go. I draw a card. Or no, I don't. I go to 7 points. I activate Rek'Sai in case I had like a Cleave or a Blood Rush, which I do. I instantly cast it without flipping my next card, and he's like, okay, you got it. I don't know what was in his hand, but there was like a Tide Turner. He couldn't swap it with anything, and he basically accepted I had enough might to take over for the 8 point. So now we're going into game 3, the final game of this best of 3, and the final game of this Nexus night. I am playing Forbidding Waste, which of course is pretty sweet in Rek'Sai because I'm most often the attacking player. It is difficult for them to leave 1 unit because all of my small units will probably overrun it, and then it forces him to commit multiple units to a single battlefield, but also that opens him to a big swing where I just pump up one of my units very big and still conquer and trade resources efficiently. He of course is playing Targon's Peak. I think of course one of the most underrated battlefields at this moment. I haven't seen in a while, maybe it's because the decks that are currently popular in my local meta are not really Targon's Peak decks like Aurelia and Diana. But of course in Draven it's insane if you can keep open your Spinning Axe mana always after conquering the battlefield. Here I decide to develop my Rek'Sai because I'm not sure what's in my hand. Yeah, so I had 2 drop, a Nox Hopeful and a Falling Star, and ideally I want to use my mana as efficiently as possible. So I choose to play my Rek'Sai turn 1. It also overtakes the Tide Turner pretty easily. Here I run into it with 4 might. I'm kind of baiting his Spinning Axe because if he plays it I will just cleave and still win this combat. Get to activate my Rek'Sai ability for pretty cheap. And he chooses to Ride the Wind, which, again, I keep forgetting Ride the Wind exists. Also, I don't think a lot of Draven decks are currently running it, so I was just getting caught off guard left and right. He scores a point for free on my turn, which of course is super annoying. I do get to conquer. I flip 2 longswords, which at this point of the game I don't really want. It's investing one of my resources without getting anything from it basically at this point. So here I'm thinking, okay, I need to get rid of this Kaisa because it will just easily overrun my Rek'Sai. He gets the point here from going back to Forbidding Waste, which is like super frustrating. So I choose to Falling Stars Kaisa in base. I just want to get rid of his additional card advantage, and I develop a Noxus Hopeful in base. Now thinking back, if this was the best play or not, I'm not sure. Maybe I should have played the Carrying Dredger because this will also overtake the Tide Turner, but if he has something like a... he has like 5 runes right now? Yeah, I'm not sure what he can have. I just wanted to keep developing my board. I'm already behind in points a lot because he scored on his first or second turn. Then he, with the Ride the Wind, scored on my turn, and now he's holding to 3, so we're now 1-3, which is super annoying for Rek'Sai because you basically always want to be ahead in points. He's now developing his base with a Darius, and I'm like, oh shit, I should have kept my Falling Star. But it's okay, I'm gonna top deck 1. I literally said this out loud, that's why, and then I top decked it. I was like, oh well, there we go. But now I'm thinking like, okay, should I just slam it? Because I was so excited that I did call it and top decked it. But I was like, yeah, I need to deal with Darius because it's such an efficient unit that can run into one of my battlefields. And then with the triggered ability, you can just run back. I'm at 2 points, so here I am, okay, but I want to kind of catch up with him with points, but again, I don't want to put my Noxus Hopeful in danger and lose my resources, and I'm at 2 points, and most often it's not worth it to expend resources to go to an uneven amount of points. So 2-3, of course, I would be able to flip cards of my Rek'Sai, so maybe it would have been better. But I don't think. I think this is the right play, but let me know if you disagree. I'm not sure. Again, here for him, he can probably go to one of the battlefields, go to 4 points, which is a pretty nice position to be at if I'm only at 2. And again, he can either reinforce his battlefield, so it will be difficult for me to overtake it, or he can develop his base, because he does have time right now. Like, I don't have time. I am now on the back foot. I have to put pressure on the battlefields while not losing any resources, and he can just pretty much chill in base. He also knows that I already used 2 of my falling stars, and he's actually going to use one of his own here. So he's going to double falling star my Noxus Hopeful. Oh well, he has his 2 falling stars of his own. I think this was the turn where I pretty much lost the game, because I'm low on resources. He is super ahead in points. He gets to develop his board. I'm in a position where I cannot really contest. He's at 4. I don't have anything except the stupid bird. And if I don't have something like a cleave... oh, well, I do have a cleave. I'm not sure if I use it here. Do I just go into the Forbidding Waste? I choose to play Void Rush first. I think I just want to see my options. Of course, I don't have the Rek'Sai. I hit my 3rd falling star. I think we were just laughing here because we were just doing a falling star game, and we were both going down to a lot of resources. And here he uses his spinning axe on the one in base, which is of course the correct play, because I cannot really deal with it because I played all my falling stars. I accidentally put falling star on the bottom. He's like, hey, where the fuck did your 3rd falling star go? And I'm like, oh, whoops, there we go. And now I am at a point where I'm at 2 runes. I'm 2 points behind. He has no cards in hand. He has 1 rune. I have some cards in hand, but most of them are not really relevant at this point. And conquering here just lets him draw a card. I only go to 3 points, so I pass. I'm not sure if this is correct, but even if I flipped something off the Rek'Sai, I wouldn't have been able to play it because I'm at 1 rune. So I think this entire sequencing this turn was just completely wrong. I didn't respect the fact that he could spinning axe the unit in his base. So maybe I should have just double falling start overzealous Sven in base, and then find a way to deal with the Tide Turner later. Maybe I should have just conquered with the bird first, so I see what the options are. Either way, I didn't really respect the fact that he could have it, and that I am so behind on points with minimal resources. I think at this position of the game, I think he's now at 4, 5, 6 points maybe if he holds. So I'm super behind. I'm pointing at his Draven like, oh yeah, if you play this, I'm pretty much cooked because there's no way for me to deal with it in a timely manner. Flicking my cards like an idiot here. Just discussing like, okay, what do I do here? What are my options? Do I develop? So I decide to go into the Forbidding Waste. And again, I said, if you have another Ride the Wind, I instantly lose the game here. So I flip a Under Titan and a Blood Rush. It gives me a lot more mana, so I was like, okay, well, let's go for the play where I develop my entire board and then pray that you don't have enough stuff to... Oh, I guess I decide to play the Void Rush. I am not sure if that is correct. Oh, I was like, yeah, Inferna is gonna be a instant spell anyway next turn. I don't agree. I think now that I'm looking at this, I should have just played all the 2-drops in my hand. Did I just play another Inferna? Wasn't there another 2-drop available to me that isn't like, that doesn't have ambush? Because in that way... Oh no, okay, so I guess that's why I played the Void Rush. I think I didn't see correctly what was in my hand. But the annoying thing is, next turn I have 2 cards in hand that I cannot play. I cannot play Under Titan to pump up my entire board, and I cannot play the Bryn here to turn off his tricks. And also the thing is, I'm so behind in points. I'm at this point like, yeah, I'm probably losing this game, because even if I commit to the battlefields, it doesn't really matter. Of course, he retreats here, he is at 6, he doesn't really have to do anything. And again, this deck is so terrible at holding. I already used all my falling stars, so dealing with his base is also not really an option. And I'm like, yeah, the only way that I can win is have an efficient Hidden Blade. Again, this is a one-off in my deck, or like a double Call the Week could work here. That's what I said, so I need to Call the Week. Move in, flip from Rek'Sai, have another Call the Week. But so I go to 4 points. Nothing really crazy, he's at 6. And I'm like pointing out like, yeah, I need to deal with both of these units, because if you have one of them and Ride the Wind, I lose 100%. If you have a Tide Turner or something crazy, I don't remember. There's just, you know, I needed this double Call of the Week, so I do move to the Targon's Peak with the Poro, so I go to 5 points, and then I flip, so I do flip a Call of the Week. I'm like, okay, this is maybe enough. I'm talking to one of my friends here, I'm not sure what he was asking. So I played Call of the Week. I think I killed the bird or the Poro. I think I killed the, I'm not sure. Maybe I should have killed the Poro here. And then I said, yeah, develop the board. And I pass turn, and Prey doesn't have anything. Because again, his Draven is now going to be 9 might. And I needed a Hidden Blade on the battlefield with the Poro here in order to be able to win the game. So I, you know, I literally say, you go, and I pray. So his Spinning Axe dies from the temporary trigger. And I also said, oh, if you have Kaisa, I lose. If you have, you know, anything with her. And then he didn't have red runes, so that's why you saw him kind of celebrate here, because he flipped the final rune and it was red, and he just, you know, shows the Kaisa, and I'm like, yeah, okay, well, I need a Hidden Blade there or I lose, and I don't have it, so it's pretty much GG. But it was a nice game. I think there's a lot of things here that I could have done better. Of course, Luke also could have done things better. This is a bad matchup, but I think it is not unwinnable. If I play more cleanly and think more about resource trading, think more about point tempo, and also be a little bit more efficient, it would have helped. I hope you enjoyed this video and this type of commentary. And if you want to see more Nexus Night gameplay like this, leave a comment and subscribe, so I am motivated to make more videos like this. And see you next time.